Well, Mississippi State just landed a big-time baseball commit, and we're here to break it all down. Who he is, what kind of talent he's bringing to Starkville, and how he fits into the future of this Bulldog program. Whether you're following recruiting closely or just love good baseball, this is one you won't want to miss. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Mississippi State, your daily podcast on the Mississippi State Bulldogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen every single day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code Locked On College at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. I'm Jaron, Spor, national college football writer at Athlon Sports. That is Landon, McBride. We have a packed football and baseball and basketball show for you today. We're covering three different sports. Baseball got another transfer portal commit. It's another pretty big name, especially adding to the pitching staff. They also lost another pitcher, so we'll talk about that. Then after that, just how difficult is Davis Wade Stadium? Well, EA Sports gave their feedback on that one, so we'll break down their thoughts. And then we'll end with Ken Palm's rankings have been updated to include the 2025 season. So that goes back from 1997, almost 30 years of data. Where does Mississippi State rank? We'll talk about that. That's all a little later. But first, like we said, let's talk about the baseball commit. Another transfer portal commit and another one from Virginia. William Kirk, who is a left-handed pitcher, has committed to Mississippi State. Like I said, he was at Virginia. He didn't pitch last year. He was, I believe, a true freshman last year. And he was Gatorade Player of the Year, I believe, in 2024.
Yep. Jersey.
Yeah, in New Jersey. Yeah, not nationally Gatorade Player of the Year, but in 2024, his senior year, he went 5-0 with a .22 ERA in 26 appearances. My only question is, how bad was his offense that he pitched 26 games and only had a 5-0 record?
I know, that's crazy. No, I mean, he was the 110th prospect in the MLB draft in 2024. So, I mean, that's pretty good to be right there. And that's, including college players. So this is a big time talent that they brought in. No track record in college. So, we see a lot of these guys with either no track record or very little track record. Right. So a lot of projection to what he could be. Can't say you can count on him this year. I mean, he might come in and be the best pitcher on the staff. We don't know. But that's the problem, is we don't know.
Right.
So he could be great, but it's a little bit of wait and see, just like it is with a lot of these pitchers that are coming over.
Yeah, and I will want to preface this. Obviously, being the Gatorade Baseball Player of the Year is like an amazing accomplishment no matter what state you're in. But some states are better than others, obviously. And so I don't want people to be like, oh, he's Gatorade New Jersey Baseball Player of the Year. Like, we just got this star and all this stuff. Like, he could definitely be that. I mean, he's got the potential to do that. Yeah, I mean, he struck out 62 batters in 32 innings as a senior. Like, he has potential to do that. And he was also a really good hitter. He hit 9 home runs and 38 RBIs his senior year. And he's a left-handed pitcher. He was the number 1 left-handed pitcher and number 6 overall player in the state of New Jersey. That was according to Perfect Game. So he's a guy with a lot of talent, like Landon mentioned. He's a guy that we just kind of have to wait and see if he lives up to that talent and can develop. He's a guy that I wouldn't expect, especially with all the pitchers they've signed, the pitchers they've added, and not just in recruiting, but in the transfer portal, the guys they've brought back. I wouldn't expect him to make an immediate impact next year, but he's a guy that you probably will throw out there against lower level competition and just see what he can do.
Yeah, he's a guy you definitely have to give a chance to, because I think we're starting to figure out at least who the top 2 guys are. I think we're pretty set in that Evan and Valencias are probably your 1 and your 2 in some order, and everyone else is going to be kind of fighting for that 3. The couple of guys they have brought over were relievers, so you would assume those guys are probably going to stick in those type of roles. So yeah, it's really a battle for the midweek starter and who's the third starter for the weekend.
Right.
And when you have a guy who is, had a year in a college baseball program that brings that kind of talent, that's the guy who you hope can claim that third starter role,
right,
and can find a place. So it's what is built on this pitching staff is going to tell us a lot about Justin Parker. We've
Yeah.
praised him for how he handled the team when he became interim and some of the pitchers that he has developed, but there's a lot of talent and a lot of guys who are young and a lot of guys who had success at lower levels coming here. And so if they either replicate the success they had at the lower level in the SEC, or if he progresses these young pitchers, that's, that it's on him really.
Yeah, and this follows the news that Duke Stone is transferring out. He was obviously a freshman this past season. He obviously didn't play a whole lot. Let's see, he pitched. Pitched very little this past year. He pitched five times, had a 5.79 ERA, pitched 4.2 innings, 6 hits, 3 runs, 3 earned runs, 3 base on balls. Did have 7 strikeouts, which is
3 wild pitches.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. Like
yeah, 3 wild pitches. So, and 1 hit by pitch. So like he didn't have this great season, but also he was a true freshman.
Yeah.
But it was kind of weird because that news was announced and then not too long afterwards, the Kirk news was announced. So I wonder if it was kind of the writing was on the wall for Stone that he was going to be at least somewhat buried on the depth chart. And I don't blame someone that knows he's not going to play and he's farther down on the depth chart as he thought he was once going to be. And because especially with a guy like him who obviously has some developing to do, when you're that far down the depth chart, the best thing to do is to learn by pitching. And so if you can't actually get in the games, it's hard to develop some of those things. Now, obviously you can develop some on the practice diamond and things like that, but the best thing to do, best experience is being out there and playing. And so I wonder if those two are correlated.
It probably is, and I'd have to see a full roster to know exactly who's staying, who's still here, and all that. But I would have to imagine they're getting very close to the roster limit. They're probably getting in that range where if they're bringing someone else in, someone else has to go. I think if we're not there yet, we're very close, and so it could have been that.
Could have been that too. Yeah,
where it's like, look, we got to bring him in, so you need to find another place to go, and with the guys we talked about with Ford and Becker off the board, and after this move, I kind of think we would expect the transfer portal. I've said it so many times I can't say it anymore. I figure that'd slow up at this point. I would say this is probably the team you're going to go into the season with. Mm-hmm. I mean, if anyone else is added, I would assume it's kind of like a depth piece. Some highly touted freshman who decided they want to change the scenery. Maybe you get someone like that that's going to kind of sit for a year. I think this is probably the team we're going to go into the fall with.
Yeah, I don't expect many more changes. And the one thing I want to get your thoughts on this too. The thing I love most about this pitching staff is you've got the veteran guys. You got the guys with experience, Evan, for example. Even guys that Ben Davis is another one, but even guys that don't have a ton of experience but pitched last year, you have those guys now. And Ryan McPherson, you also have Tomas Valencias. Now you got some of the younger guys, Jack Bauer, and now on top of that, you just added William Kirk. So you got guys that are veteran, have pitched a lot. You have guys that have pitched at least a year, and then you have these younger guys, and all are very talented in their own rights. And we'll see which ones take that next step. Obviously, the true freshmen don't have a step to take yet because they haven't played yet. But we'll see if the other guys that have played take that next step. But I think you've got a good core for this year. You got a really good core for next year, and then you've got a really bright future, and that's what you want in a pitching staff.
Yeah, they've really built it well, where you have the guys who you feel you can rely on going into next year, and some of those ones like Valencia still might be here the following year, even if he has a great season, because MLB draft rules are weird, so he might have to wait another year before he can go. And then you have these freshmen and sophomores that have transferred over. They're going to be here next year too. And it's just a good way to build a staff. Like I mentioned, it's really going to come down to if Justin Parker can continue to develop these guys, because he is getting a room of talent. Like these guys have stuff. So it's going to come down to teaching them how to pitch and not just be throwers.
Yeah, for sure. And you got to figure out which ones can handle the pressure too, because that was one thing we saw last year where a lot of these guys, Ryan McPherson, a perfect example, has a lot of talent, but as soon as things started breaking bad for him in that game against Texas A&M, it went downhill for him. Now, again, it's expected. He's a true freshman. He hasn't been in that moment yet. He's coming from in high school where he probably never faced anything like that before.
One game like that in his entire high school career.
Yeah, exactly. So it's totally different. Like, it's a totally different atmosphere. And so I'm not saying that in a bad way, like, oh, he's not clutch, he's not going to figure it out. No, that's expected.
Yes.
But the thing is, while that is expected as you're a freshman, you now have to prove that that's not who you are as a player. I mean, we've seen it. Like, for example, a great example, and I'm bringing it up because the Thunder just won the NBA championship, but when they were in the finals in 2012, James Harden played bad in that finals. Mm-hmm. And people were like, okay, is this who he is? Or it's also he's 23 years old, he's young, blah, blah. I think he was 23 at the time. He's young. Maybe that's not who he is. And what we've learned throughout his career is he struggles in the playoffs. So that actually was the sign that he struggles in the playoffs. And so sometimes it's that. But then sometimes you see a guy struggle earlier in their career. I mean, Michael Jordan couldn't get past the Pistons. Peyton Manning, great example. Yeah, struggled earlier in their careers and then fixed those issues later on in their careers in the postseason. And so that kind of stuff, that's why we have to wait and see if these guys fix those issues or if that's just who the player they are. And so we'll have to wait and see on that. But all right, coming up next, EA Sports, the new college football game is going to be dropping in less than a month, just a couple weeks. And they've listed their toughest places to play. Where does Davis Wade rank? We'll talk about that. That's coming up next. Well, guys, you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rugiet. And Rugiet Ready is a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours, Rugiet's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast on average. In 15 minutes, effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and in control when the moment is right. If traditional options haven't worked, Rugiet might be the answer. Over 150,000 men have already made the switch, and you can even read real customer reviews on their site. It's helping a lot of people feel more confident and present in the moment. Head to Rugiet.com/LockedOnCollege and use code LockedOnCollege to get 50% off today. That's Rugiet.com/LockedOnCollege and use promo code LockedOnCollege for 15% off your first purchase. Well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen every single day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, so EA Sports College Football 26 is coming out less than a month, like I said. And every year they kind of put their toughest places to play. And I believe in the game, I played the 25 a little bit, and I believe like the harder the stadium is, the pressure meter goes up, and it makes it shaky and just harder to play in those. Yeah. If you don't have an experienced quarterback, you got lines. Sometimes the routes are wrong. Like, you get all these weird things. So it's always good to be on that list. Right.
Many times.
Right. And so Davis Wade was on the list, and it was number 25. So what were your thoughts?
It makes sense. From the atmosphere, it makes sense. I was a little surprised just because, as we've seen from a lot of things that EA and especially this college football game does, it's specifically tailored to recency. And while the atmosphere has still been good, the on-field product has not been good the last couple of years. So I thought that might ding it a little bit, but it makes sense that they're in that range. Obviously, as the team gets better, it's going to get crazier. So hopefully this is the lowest that we see that we're on this list.
Yeah, and it's weird. It's always hard to find like what was the record for a team at home, because a lot of sites don't keep it.
Did chat GPT, so this answer may be wrong. But
I was about to say that I just chat GPT did too, and the one I got was 393, 252, and 19.
Yeah, I got 256, 150, 141, and 13.
Okay, so
what was the win percentage that it gave you?
It didn't give a win percentage. I would have to actually add those together, but
and it said 64%. So I think we're probably kind of in the same range.
It's probably in the same range. Yeah, just who knows? Like some schools do keep those records,
Yeah.
and then you know what their home field record is. But a lot of schools don't. It's hard to find that stuff. But I am glad that the recency bias hasn't played an effect, because while Mississippi State has faced some struggling times in the last 2 years, obviously, ever since Mike Leach tragically passed away, they have been historically a really good team at Davis Wade. I mean, it's been a very tough place to play. And I was telling you this, maybe a month ago when we were talking about what I said, Mississippi State just needs to be that program that every time you play them at home, it's just a dogfight. No pun intended. It's just a tough game. And I said, it doesn't mean they win every time. It doesn't mean Mississippi State wins every time. It just means that teams need to say, man, when we go there, we know we're getting our money's worth. And that's what I think toughest places to play should be ranked by. Right. It shouldn't necessarily be ranked by wins and losses. Sometimes your guys just are not as talented as the other guys.
Yeah.
But was it a dogfight? Like if Georgia came into town and played Mississippi State in Starkville, Georgia's a way more talented team than Mississippi State. But if the final score was 20-17, for example, that's a tough game. And that means that crowd was tough and it was a hard place to play.
Yes. And this crowd historically has been good. And my comment on that's just we've seen how EA does all their rankings. And a lot of it is based off of record, off of like the last 10 years, last 15 years. So that's why I am a little shocked, just because they tend to not look at what actually happens, how you got there. It's more result more than how you got there. And yeah, ChatGPT did throw a little thing on here that says the strong home field performance reflects the impact of Starkville's electric atmosphere, one of the SEC's oldest and most daunting stadiums. So yeah, I mean, even AI thinks it's great. So, I mean, that's good news for when they take over. But
yeah, and the craziest thing about this, unless I'm miscounting this, of the top 25, 11 are SEC schools. Yeah. So, like Mississippi State, it's like you're top 25, which is amazing to beat, but you're 11th in your own conference. That means you're below average in your conference, which is insane to think about, because you're top 25, which puts you in a top tier in college football, but you're below average for your conference.
Yeah, that is crazy. All right, going off this, was there anyone on that top 25 that kind of surprised you, like where they ranked?
I mean, North Carolina State surprised me at 22, just right off the bat.
Yeah.
I kind of have a hot take, and I brought this up last year when the initial rankings came out, because I believe the initial rankings last year had a certain team number one, and then there was a lot of backlash, and another team jumped to number one, which was LSU, and they deserved to be number one.
Yes.
And they're still number one this year. That's very tough. But A&M, and the reason why it surprises me is I get the 12th man. I get Kyle Field. I've been to games there. I understand all that. And I know I was just talking about how record doesn't really always define if it's a tough place to play, which is true. But A&M historically, if you go back and look, they don't have a great home record.
No.
Like, they have a really good one. Don't get me wrong. It's not like they have a bad one.
Right.
But they don't have a great home record. It's not like, every single time Alabama comes in there, they lose, and it's this tough. Like, yeah, they beat them, 3 years ago at A&M. But it's just, I remember when it was Johnny Manziel's second year, so his redshirt sophomore year. He had just won the Heisman. They were ranked number 4 in the country. Alabama comes to town. They just beat Alabama last year. They gave Alabama fits, don't get me wrong. A lot of people thought they should have won that game, and then they lose. And we saw them lose to Appalachian State a couple years ago at home. And that was a team that was, thought to be really good, that A&M team. Obviously, they fell off after that, but going into that game, people thought they were going to be a really good team. I just think it is one of the most overrated college football environments in the whole sport.
Incredibly. And I've talked to players who have played there, and they say it is very easy to play there. Yes, It's loud, but the unison chants make it very easy to block out. Whereas every other stadium, it's just crazy. You don't have those weird chants happening. And so it's like, yeah, that's easy to block out because I know what's coming next. You don't know what's coming next other places. So I'm actually glad to see they're out of the top 10. I'd rank them below 11.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just me. I also think Texas is overrated for their game day environment.
Again, see, and I haven't been there, but I have heard that.
I've been there once, and it may have changed since I've been there, because when I was there, it was, not as good days. It was before Sark hit.
Right.
So maybe it's changed, but back then it was more about the party, less about the football. So
Right.
they didn't really care. They didn't get loud until the big screen said get loud.
Yeah, I thought Notre Dame would be a little higher.
Me
That
too.
one's always a daunting place to play, and they have a really good record there. The one thing I'll say about A&M, and I talked to someone that played against A&M at Texas A&M, and I was asking him. So he played for the University of Texas. So as soon as I say that, A&M fans are going to be like, "Well, that's why he said it." But I was asking him, what's your biggest rival? Because A&M fans obviously say it's them, Oklahoma fans obviously say it's them,
Mhm.
but who is your biggest rival? And he was talking about it being Oklahoma, and he was saying he was talking about the Cotton Bowl and how it's 50-50, and he said the thing about A&M and the reason why he loved playing it, that's how long ago he played. He was there when they were still playing against each other. But he was saying the thing about A&M is we always knew when we went to A&M we were going to quiet them really quick. I mean, he played with Colt McCoy, so they were really good. This was really good Texas, and this was really not great A&M. He's like, we knew we were going to quiet them and we were going to beat them. And I would have to go back and look. I don't know if A&M even beat Colt McCoy. I'm sure they did
They
maybe
did
once.
once when they knocked him out of the game.
I remember that actually. I was just about to say I think I remember a time he got knocked out of the game, but he knew he said we always liked it because it was always really loud early in the game and very quickly they could knock the
Oh,
crowd
yeah.
out of the game.
Yeah.
And that's true. And now the game that I went to, A&M wasn't very good. The team that I was also there to watch was really good, and it was a close dogfight of a game. And so of course the crowd's in it on that one. And that would be a game kind of like what I just mentioned about Mississippi State and Georgia, where that team was way more talented than A&M, and A&M made it a tough game. I think they lost by 7 or something like that. That makes it a tough environment and place to play.
Yeah.
But I just think it's arguably the most overrated home field in all of college football, to be honest. But all right, coming up next, Kim Pom has his new rankings out for college basketball. Where does Mississippi State land? We'll talk about it.
Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So, in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. And then one thing I noticed when I started using Monarch Money is just how quickly all of those subscriptions add up. I mean, all of these streaming services, you have to subscribe to all of them or you don't get to watch stuff, but it adds up fast. And food deliveries. That's the other way. Everyone spends way too much money. I started noticing what I was doing when I used Monarch and I scaled back. It's helped me save money. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money and use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year.
Well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen every single day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, so Kim Pom did its program rankings, or ratings, really. This is from 1997 to 2025, so almost 30 years of, it's a very big sample size of college basketball ranking, and Mississippi State made the top 50. So the list right here is just 50 teams. I think they ranked them all, but this ranking that I'm looking at is only 50. And Mississippi State comes in at number 45. The crazy thing is, because we look at this program as historically great, but they really haven't been great since 97, but they've been very good. They're just one spot behind Georgetown.
Yeah, that was surprising me when I saw how low Georgetown was. In my head, Georgetown's always great, but
right.
I've realized recently that's just me thinking it's still 90s.
Yeah, or the 80s with John Thompson. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
That's great. And I really think this program is on an upward trajectory. So I really think every year I would expect this number to get higher and higher and higher. But, looking at this list, you understand where the term blue blood came from real quick?
Yeah. 4 blues right off the bat.
But no, this was it's always fun when you
Oh,
see
well, 6 really, because Arizona's navy blue, and then Florida's even got some blue.
New
So
York's 8.
yeah,
But these lists are always fun. It's good because perspective gets changed when a non-partisan party comes in and just ranks everything like this. Kind of puts things in perspective about where things are. So I always enjoy when these things come out.
well, and it's kind of funny again. They're top 50, which again, great, but again, they're like 11th in the SEC. So it's just a crazy ranking, but
It is.
that just shows how good the SEC is and how many good basketball programs they have. But was there any ranking that surprised you? I mean, I mentioned Georgetown, but if you really think about it, they haven't been great outside of the John Thompson run. And John Thompson III had some good teams. Auburn, I know they've been really good recently, but I had to kind of like do a double check on that one. But
14 is a little surprising because they
Baylor,
had the late 90s, early 2000s, they struggled
right?
on
Yeah,
the off the field issues that we're not going to get into.
yeah. Well, and I think Syracuse not being higher,
Yeah.
even Villanova not being higher. Like Texas is number 9,
Also,
and while I like Texas has been a really good basketball program. Don't get me wrong, but no national championships, and Villanova's won 3, and yet Texas is 9 and Villanova's 11, and UConn is 10. So UConn's also behind Texas.
Also,
So that's just kind of weird.
being on the list is weird. I never think of them as a good basketball program.
Who was that?
Cincinnati.
Oh, yeah. And that was because early 2000s they were very good. Kenyon Martin, so.
Yeah, they have runs, but I always forget about, when someone has a very specific run.
Right.
It is.
Right. Yeah. Well, all right. Well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen today. For your second listen, check out The Portal Show. Brian Smith has the latest rumors, portal entries, and signings. Be the most informed fan on the rapid changes to the college football landscape. Find The Portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. All right, I'm Jaron. Check out my work over on Athlon Sports. That's Landon. Follow us, Locked On Mississippi State. We're on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. We post daily videos Monday through Friday on those. Also, we posted a question every day on our video. We love your feedback on there. Love interacting with you. Probably not able to as much this week just because I'm traveling for work, but we are still trying to reply as much as possible. We love your feedback on the poll. Yesterday's poll was, what is your outlook on Mississippi State's pitching staff for the upcoming season? 67% said they're confident the potential is there for a strong rotation, and 33% said hopeful. If key players step up, it could be a solid year. So both responses were great, and that's your 100% right there. 15 people responded. So we'll see. That was before adding William Kirk. So we'll definitely see if they're even more confident now. But we love your feedback on those as well. And so, yeah, we hope you just keep that up. And until next time, Hail State.
Hail State.